Cool. So super excited for ZDS 067. We've got Tracy Lee here, Miss Lady Elite herself. Tracy, it's so great to have you on.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Thank you for coming. Like the honor is truly all mine. So let me start by asking you, in your own words, what do you do?
I am the CEO of a company called This.Labs, and we do JavaScript / web consulting. And, we really believe in kind of leaving the world a better place. So that's kind of our motto. Unlike some consultancies who kind of come in and come out, we really try to be a part of your team, which is really exciting to me. And we're really passionate about just giving back to the community. So, the funds that we get to that people pay us for, we spend a lot of time investing in underrepresented minorities in tech. So we have a program called the Apprentice Program. You can go to opensourceforall.com and check it out. And really passionate about helping women in tech as well. So we have monthly mentoring. We also do tons of free meetups everywhere. My passion is bringing the community together. And, the more I can do of that, the happier I am. So.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah. Well, I remember at RxJS Live, I don't know if you recall this, but I had come up because we had talked a little bit on Twitter, and I wanted to come say hi. And what I remember was you just threw your arm around me and turned around for a selfie, and then we took a selfie there. I was like, oh wow. So
now we've officially met.
Yeah, well, I think it totally jives with your passion for making connections in the community and stuff like that. So that was totally my impression beforehand, and that first moment meeting you totally solidified it. So
that's
very cool. It was very on brand, I felt like.
Well, I'm so sad because I'm like, oh my God, I love hugging people and taking selfies. And literally once we start going to conferences, it's probably not going to be a thing,
Yeah. So. Yeah. That's crazy to think about. Even when we're back to having conferences, it's probably not going to be the same for a while.
Yeah. I'm not going to be like, hey, let's hug. And we're stay away a little bit.
Social distance selfie. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Oh, selfie sticks will be back. We'll just do selfie sticks and then stand 5 feet apart. It'll be great.
Nice. And the selfie stick can double as making sure people are at least 6 feet away.
Good idea. Even, I'm going to buy some stock in selfie sticks because I can see that just really popping off.
Yeah. Well, actually, that's a great segue into one of my big questions for you, which is how you see yourself as do you see yourself more as an entrepreneur or a engineer these days, or somewhere in the middle?
I got into building this because, well, I was finishing up another startup. So it was, I was closing the sale and everything like that, got bored, learned how to code. And then, but I told myself at that point in time, after I, was done with my other company, I was like, oh my God, I'm never doing a startup again. No, because it's so much work. It's so much effort. You put your complete life into it, right?
Can we talk about your first startup a bit? I know on your Twitter, it says you've had one exit already. I'm assuming that's the one, right? Cool.
Yeah. So we basically took people on food adventures. It was called Dish Crawl. And, we were tech enabled mostly. So we launched into 250 cities in a year.
Wow.
So
250?
Yeah. And we had 250 people working for us as well. So it was crazy, 15 to 250. It was just in 1 year. And that was definitely crazy. And, working a lot of hours and everything like that. I was not a web developer at the time, but we were Python. It was Python, and then it was Bootstrap and Vanilla.js, pretty non front end focused, right?
Yeah. Right.
And then I was like, oh my God, I'm just gonna take a break. Okay, my boyfriend does JavaScript. Let me learn. And JavaScript is I mean, you know, for somebody who doesn't do JavaScript all day, it's like hard, right? And I was like, wow, this is really challenging. I'm totally into it. So I totally fell in love with it. And then I was
could I ask you what year is this that you're first starting to look at JavaScript?
It was like 5 years ago. This was before Angular Alpha.
Okay.
This was like a year before even anything, because I remember you know, a lot of the like Angular CLI, Ember CLI conversations, like that's when everything was kind of starting to form for it's like 2015 maybe or something like that.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I got into JavaScript in 2016, and that's right when Angular 2 like dropped, like the official solid release. So
I remember I was like mostly into Angular when I was like, oh, it's alpha. And, you know, I remember Material and they were like, oh my God, don't actually use it. Or like,
why not?
Exactly. Or like the CLI was super janky. And I remember being in Angular bootcamp class and they're like, no, don't do that yet. You know, and I was like, but you have to, because I was so used to Ember, right? And just like the convention, you know, the conventions of Ember. And this was when, you know, Angular CLI was still an add-on for Ember, but it was just all exciting. It was an exciting time.
Yeah. No, I remember. So I'd been coming from like a Java world that I was not in by choice, and so seeing kind of the things as Angular 2 presented them, it was like, yes, this is where I want to be, and it felt like I jumped ahead 2 generations in terms of like tooling and stuff like that. So going back to Dishcrawl though, do you mind if I ask, like, were you doing like, were you bootstrapping for Dishcrawl, or were you kind of taking investor money, or?
So I was working a corporate job, and then for you know 2 years I was trying to figure it out. Like this was like when, you know, iPhones were like just becoming a thing, but not really. I remember the point, and you know, I was actually doing these events called Dish Crawls to market this app where it was like, oh, eat your favorite foods and then get prizes, you know, but you have to do it from the computer. So it was not integrated, right? Because I wasn't, So then, you know, Groupon hit. Do you remember when Groupon was a big thing, when it became a big thing? So Groupon and Living Social, all of a sudden restaurants understood how to discount their food and knew that they needed to do it for promotion. And so I remember throwing a dish crawl.
I feel like there's some resentment in your voice when you talk about it.
No, it was great. Like if Groupon and Living Social didn't exist, then I would have never been able to build my company, because Groupon and Living Social taught restaurants that they needed to discount their food in order to get business in.
It normalized it, and that gave you the opening. Gotcha.
That gave me the opening. And then finally, I actually made money off events. And I was like, oh my gosh. You know, so I did that for a while. And then, you know, at some point in time, I was like, okay, I'm quitting my job. So I quit my job. You know, I was able to like, you know, pay myself minimally. I still remember asking my mom for some money. I was like, Mom, sorry, I need to borrow some money, please. You know?
Thanks, Mom.
I think I borrowed like somewhere between like $10,000 to $20,000. I don't know. I mean, I never paid her back for it. So but like I borrowed some money because I couldn't, you know, survive.
Yeah. Well, there's the 3 F's that you're supposed to go to first when you're looking for funding, right? Which is friends, family, and fools.
Yeah.
And so your mom is not a fool. So
yeah. Well, yeah, she was nice enough to do that.
Yeah.
And you know, I have to think, you know, I look at the JavaScript community and I have to tell you, like, even you, right? Like, you're such a good husband and like dad, you know? And like, you know, I swear to God, in my 20s building Dish Crawl, like if I didn't have really good boyfriends who paid for things, that would not have happened. So I have to say thank you to all the guys out there who have supported me in the past. But then we did get funding. So then I did a friends and family round of like, I don't know, 100K or so. And then, you know.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, Will Bunker, founder of Match.com, was one of my first investors. Well, he was my first investor. And then like we were so excited because, you know, Ned Guinness, who, you know, like is part of the Guinness family, right? He's like a, you know, billionaire and all these other exciting things. Like he decided to invest in the company. And so we ended up raising like a little over $1 million and, you know, kind of did it for a while. Yeah.
So you had like 100K friends and family round, and then your first round was $1 million.
Yes.
From there. Wow.
I wish I'd raised more, but you know, it's an interesting world. It's like, you know, people, I think, you know, especially developers, right? Like we all have this idea of like wanting to start something. And when you think about starting something, you're like, okay, I got to like save up enough. You know, a lot of people say this, like, I got to save up enough money and then quit my job because I can't work on it unless I have time to work on it. Right. And it's like, if you have 3 kids and a full-time job and open source project.
I have 6 kids.
Oh, you have 6 kids. Oh my gosh.
But
that's intensely amazing. I'm so jealous. Like, you know, if you have, you know, that and you can't like make something successful, it's like such a risk to like quit your job and think that, oh, if I just had more time, I would make this successful, right? Because entrepreneurship takes up all your time. Like you have to be committed. Your significant others have to let you be committed. Your kids, you know, like and you have to have the energy. Like if you don't have the energy, it's hard. I'm not saying that like you have to work crazy hours or anything like that, but you kind of do at the same time, right? Like you have to be willing to during those moments. Otherwise, you're not going to be successful.
Absolutely.
I mean,
yeah,
you know.
So I've got a huge entrepreneurial streak in me.
Yeah.
Tracy, that's why I'm asking a lot of these questions. But the family situation I'm in, I'm just very risk averse. And, and you know, we got started late. So first time through college, I came out with a degree in theology. Ended up doing nothing with it and was working as a mailroom manager for several years, and then went back to school for computer science and started getting into the industry. And that's right in 2016 when, you know, Angular hit. So that's kind of my story. But just looking at just all it takes, like I very much want to have that kind of adventure, like that the one you're describing here. But just
responsibilities too.
Yeah, well, I have the responsibilities, but I think in a lot of ways that's a good thing for me because it's opening my eyes to what's really possible, what's really realistic, right? Like $1 million in your second round, that sounds really great, but when you think about it, like
not that much money.
A company with how many employees did you say? 250 employees. That's not a lot of runway when you think about that. So
and we were paying ourselves nothing. I mean. Like nobody was getting paid over, you know, $50,000. So it's like, you know, but we were all in our mid-20s, right? Like willing to take that risk, right? Like it was a cool time, but like, would I do that right now? Heck no. You know, I'm not going to be like starving, like waiting 2 years to pay myself. There's better ways to do it. And at this point in my life, like I just wouldn't.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. Plus, I don't have boyfriends. You don't have boyfriends either. I have a husband, and unfortunately, his pocket is my pocket too. So
you share pockets.
Yeah.
I feel you there, and just feel in the responsibility of all that. I do try to work on side projects and like have tried to get something to bootstrap something on the side, which is hard to do in itself. Which maybe leads me to another question I wanted to ask you, which was you talked about energy a little bit already, just needing the energy and needing to put in that time.
Right.
Working a job, having family and all that stuff. For me, it's very hard for me to find time. And I'm trying to do everything I can to increase my energy levels. I'm curious if you have any advice or any hacks there or anything you can share.
For me, it's very much like when it comes, I gotta just take it, right? Like, for example, we just had a team offsite, and out of that team offsite on Friday, I was like super energized. And so I decided to work the rest of that night, right? And then, my husband was like, okay, time to go to bed. It's midnight. I'm like, oh my God, do we have to? But, I went to bed. But then I was up till 3 a.m, like making like spreadsheets on things, like just like in bed scrolling.
Oh, and, I thought you meant in your head for a second there. And I was like, that's really impressive. Yeah. But yeah, I see what you're saying.
And then I woke up at 8 a.m. on Saturday and I was like, oh my God, I still have it, And then I totally crashed around like 2 or 3 in the afternoon. But I think like maximizing your energy, for me personally, like I work with a coach, her name is Noah Ronan, and she's like, it's just really helpful because you kind of need to like think about these things, think about priorities, think about how you approach life. And if you don't do that, I feel like sometimes you can get really stuck, right? So that's been really helpful for me.
When you say coach, is this like what kind of coach is this?
Like she's like a business and life coach.
Okay.
So I think like, practicing things, right? Whatever that is, like everybody has their own process, but like, there's one somebody that said like, manage your to-do list through your calendar. So like for me, I go to my calendar and I'm like, okay, from this time to this time, this is what I'm going to do. From this time to this time, this is what I'm going to do. And if I get into some sort of rhythm, right, and afford myself time to do the things I want to do, like you're talking about side projects, then I get excited about that. Another tip is like making sure you're, doing things that you have to do mixed with the things that you want to do, because the things that you want to do are the things that energize you. So it'll help like fuel you for the other stuff that you might not want to do. So I think it's all just about like tricking your brain, but I don't have any better tips than that, unfortunately.
Interesting. Now, I've been experimenting with some of this stuff. So I do like a daily checklist these days, and I try to section my day up into like a couple sessions. I call it like a morning session and an afternoon session. And if I'm able to check out everything off, I give myself a little reward for that day. So most of the days it's like taking the girls out to the park or something like that.
Yeah.
But it's just that's my attempt, I think, at doing kind of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Did you do anything like that where you give yourself incentives, or is it just, it seems like the way you're describing it, it's like there's an internal well of energy that you just like need to tap into. I feel like I'm trying to find that well.
Yeah. I don't know. I think so when I have no energy at all, I do this every day where, I write down the one thing I want to do this week. So I start off Monday, like, what's the one thing you want to do this? I ask myself, what's the one thing you want to do this week? And what's the one thing you want to do today? And just make that be like one thing, no more. Right. Because then you'll actually get, hopefully, that one thing you want to do today done. Yeah. And hopefully that one thing you want to do this week. So when I have no energy to do anything, that's like the only way I get through the week. Which is so sad and depressing, but that's true.
Yeah. Well, with COVID going on, has that been? We talked a little bit before we started, but has that been? Have you been in a lot of those kinds of weeks lately, or?
Yeah, it goes up and down, really. But yes, I started working out. I think working out was really hard. I gained a lot of weight in the beginning of COVID. I made too much bread and ate a lot.
Nice.
Past that phase now, but have too much flour left over. But like, for me, it's like, hey, I have to meet with this guy 5 times a week, and I just don't cancel. And like, if anything, that gets me through. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just like, I have to do it. So it sets some sort of, I don't know, some sort of like it makes me feel better after I work out. I'm like, okay, like I feel like I actually accomplished something, right? But
do you feel like that helps with your energy as well, working out?
You know, I don't know. It's like a cycle, right? Like for me, food is everything. So, you know, it's like, okay, I'm sad. I want to eat. Okay, wait, am I sad because I ate shitty food, or am I sad because I'm sad, or am I eating bad food because I feel bad? Like, I don't know, you know, but I feel better now. I don't know what it is. You know, some weeks I'm like, okay, I'm going to wake up at 6 a.m. every day, like naturally, and just have at it. And I love that energy and that time. Some other, like one of the women I know, Amal, her time is like waking up at, you know, whatever, 5 a.m. or something like that. And just like her mornings are her time. And that's how she can get so much done. And she gets a lot done. So I don't know. I don't have the right answer. I think everybody just is still working through it, you know?
Yeah. Well, I love hearing people's take on that. I feel like I can always glean something from it. So I always try to make sure I ask just to see. Maybe sometime, one of these times I'll talk to someone and they'll have like the answer and then I can share it with everyone. But yeah.
For a short period of time. I'm just kidding. Don't do that. You know, I don't even drink coffee. I mean, if I drink, if I drink coffee even one day, I'm like on for 2 days. So, I mean, I guess that's a hack, but then you crash. So,
right.
Kind of pay it back anyways.
Right.
But you have 6 kids. I mean, give yourself a break. Pat yourself on the back.
Okay. I'll take caffeine without feeling guilty then.
Yeah.
But that's really cool though. Thanks for sharing about that. So moving into maybe some deeper questions, and if this is getting too deep, you know, let me know.
Go ahead.
But, if you could, and I'll give you some time to think if you need it, but what do you think it is you want out of life?
Oh my God, I think about this every single week.
Oh yeah,
every day. I think about it every day.
I've been trying to think about this every day too. I don't naturally, but I've been trying to make myself so I can make sure I'm going in at least in the right direction.
Yes. That is let's see. So like, it's hard, right? Because I think as humans, you want to be satisfied, right? So, you know, when I was in my early 20s, before I discovered Twitter is the reason why I am the way I am now. Good or bad, take it or leave it. But like,
what a statement, though. Twitter is the reason.
It's true.
Yeah.
Because before I met Twitter, like I was like dating this guy, and we were, you know, he was so nice, and you know, I mean, we would have like gotten married and had kids like very shortly thereafter, right? And you know, he's like, oh, I'll just pay your stuff. You can stay at home, do whatever you want. Meaning all my entrepreneurial stuff, right? He was super supportive. And like, that would have been a great, amazing life. But then I found Twitter, and Twitter showed me the world. Like Guy Kawasaki talked to me. I was like, oh my gosh, Guy Kawasaki just talked to me on the internet. This is crazy. There's venture capitalists out there. I can talk to all these people. Look at all these millionaires and billionaires. The world is open. Needless to say, I dumped my boyfriend and, you know, went on that journey, right?
Yeah.
You know, have some regrets. I always have regrets dating people from Twitter. Like I have to, I did that like a few years ago too, when I had regrets, a rebound. But I did that back then too. What is wrong with me? Who knows? Anyways, but you know, that really changed my life. So the reason I tell this story is because I've been struggling with like building a company and wanting to be ambitious. Do I want to be ambitious? Do I want to keep going? Yes, I want to keep going. But at the same time, you know, would I just be happy like having kids, settling down, and like, you know, sustaining myself, right? And like, do I need to push myself that hard? Do I really need to be that ambitious? Or like, can I just be happy? And am I going to be happy with like what a normal life? Or am I never going to be happy until I'm Oprah? Which obviously if I'm Oprah, I'm still not going to be happy because I want to be more than that, right? So I don't know. That's a hard question. But the thing that also killed me very recently is I sat down with my husband and asked him, hey, when can I retire? And we went through the numbers and he gave me a number of when I could retire. And so every day I think about that dang number, not saying I will ever retire because that's not like me, right? But every single day I think about that stupid number. So the question for you, Zack, is do you want to keep thinking about, that number or that goal? Or is it better to just be happy where you are and keep going, right?
Yeah. Well, so I've got a number too. We actually, I'm really into personal finance. It's a weird thing because you can't talk about that in most.
Like fire? Are you into fire?
No. Personal finances. Oh, is fire a method? Sorry.
Yes, it is.
I thought maybe you misheard me and thought I was really into pyrotechnics or something.
No. It's financial independence, retire early.
Oh, okay. No, I hadn't heard of that before, but yeah, no.
We're into it.
Yeah, I'd be interested in reading more about it. But I've got a spreadsheet that's just like we have a page on it that's called Endgame, and that's just this is how down to like the day when can we retire based on our current net worth and our current rate of change.
Yeah.
So for me though, that's always been. In some way, that has been this is when I can start the adventure I wanted to do, which is like go after like an entrepreneurial thing or try to start a company or a nonprofit or something like that. So that's
super hard too because it's like, why don't you live your life now? You know what I'm saying? Like that.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I don't feel like I'm not living my life now. Yeah. I feel like in some ways. The work I'm doing right now is very important preparation. Yeah. For the work I want to do, and it's something if all I have for the next several years is just working for Narwhal, I'll be pretty happy. Yeah. So it's great. Like, I'm trying to make the best of the situation I'm in, but like kind of having an eye on what comes next. Because for me, like the answer to that question, what is I want out of life? I kind of want like a exceptional life. Yeah. Like I don't know if that resonates with you, but it's like I want to have something of some semblance of a hand on the wheel, in terms of what's happening in humanity as
you feel like you want to make a difference.
Yeah.
I feel the same way.
Yeah. So. Well, where do you see like where do you see yourself making that difference?
Well, my first company was really amazing because we were able to just get, it was mostly women that we were able to empower, and we had a training program and we helped them create the jobs that they loved, right? We trained them how to do what they wanted to do, which was like obviously be in the food industry. And that was really empowering to see. The
lives you changed with that company.
Exactly. Like I like helping people. I really like bringing people together. And it's so interesting because I didn't really start this thought with the intention of that. I think the intention of starting this thought was to bring people together, build community, which is something that's just, I just like have to, like, I can't help it. Right. But then like, starting the apprentice program and helping underrepresented folks, like that is something that, just happened. And like, the more money we make at this dot, the more we're able to do that and support that vision and that goal, which is awesome. In my early 20s, I was like in an abusive relationship, and that was really hard for me. And so getting out of that was really difficult. And, you have to like rebuild your entire life from scratch a lot of the times. And, I was really passionate about like helping women rebuild their lives, right? Like I was able to get out of it. And why I was able to do that, it's hard. It's really hard. So like, I really wanted to start a company to do that. But I was like, okay, do I start like a company to do that? Or do I like go make money with a startup? right? And my thing was, okay, go make money for a startup first, because you can't help others until you can help yourself. So if I had all the money in the world, I would probably be helping women in some form or capacity somehow, right? Maybe writing a book about my experiences, but yeah.
You should still do that, though. I would definitely read that.
Yeah, I want to, but I think it's hard because, it's like, my 30-something-year-old brain versus my 20-something-year-old brain, like, now that we have the internet and everything is recorded, right? Like, I look back at some of the decisions I made and some of the like email threads that I did when I was like 20-something. I'm like, you were so dumb. Like, you know what I was saying? So dumb.
Nice. Do you think in 10 years you'll have similar thoughts about what you're doing now?
Probably. Unfortunately. Yeah.
Well, I think if we don't have those kinds of thoughts in 10 years, that means we've done something wrong in the 10 years from between here and then.
I totally agree. Hopefully I'm like, oh yeah, that was so cute when I started this company. Whatever. But I want to start more companies. So I'm ready.
Well, that's a good segue to my next question. This is all lining up perfectly. It's amazing. So my next question was, what are you most excited about in the next 10 years?
In the next 10 years, I'm excited about getting to my retirement number.
Are you less than 10 years away from that?
I mean, who knows?
Okay.
Like, maybe. I mean, you gotta have goals, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, realistically, but, hopefully coming to some sort of retirement number. And then I don't know what that number means. I mean, I don't know what it symbolizes, but I just like want to, not have to work, I guess. I guess that's empowering, right? Even
Absolutely.
though I can stop working now, I'm like, bull crap. That's not true. I mean, he doesn't actually mean it either. He doesn't want me to do that, but we have arguments about it. But I think also just like making bigger impacts, right? Like I love what we're doing at this stop because I really do believe in the vision of, the apprentice program, helping underrepresented folks, being a voice in the community. I think, we have the, as a female, I have the opportunity to like, I don't know, make a difference as a leader. Like you don't see a lot of female leaders. I think in the world, there's a lot of dudes out there and, guys helping guys and a lot of girls helping girls as well. Right. But, one of the things that makes a big difference that a lot of people talk about is this idea where like, men have a lot of power in this world. Women too, but more men. And men, the transfer of wealth is like men working with men, right? Because, you're familiar and you're comfortable with that, right? And, women don't have as much of that, right? Like women can't, it's just not the same thing, right? There's no like, women's club. I mean, there is, but like not as naturally as it is for men.
Not as natural or as prominent as a boys' club. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And like, if I can help be a part of that women's club and like pay it forward later on and, be that positive light for people, like I'm happy about it.
Yeah. Regarding diversity and inclusivity, well, one of the strongest arguments I've heard for that is like, being in an industry where we're predominantly, white men, it seems like we're missing out on a lot just by not having more exposure to people with other backgrounds, with other worldviews. And like a lot of stuff gets missed in those situations. Like there's the thing on Twitter recently with the where they like recentered the image preview and it like couldn't detect people with darker complexions. Like it couldn't tell it's a face. So it would always show the white person rather than the person with darker skin, which was, it's it seems like if you have a team of all white male engineers, that might happen. So
right.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's definitely hard out there, but I think it's like, I think our industry is moving forward, but it's like a lot of people with diversity and inclusion talk about like not just a number, but also creating a culture. Mm-hmm. And I think that also goes on like the business level, right? It's like you want help with diversity and inclusion, like give money to women so women can become those people, right? Mm-hmm. Like have a seat at the table, right? Versus like, oh, that's cute. Like me and this one girl were talking about, she's another female CEO, and we were talking about our investment experiences. And she, I laugh because I think it's funny, but like, like some guys are like, investors are like, oh man, you would totally get along with my wife. I'm like, yeah, I know I would, but come on now.
Yeah, that's a weird thing to say. It feels like.
I mean, I know I would. Duh. That's why I'm here. Give me money. But seriously, give me money like you give your wife money. I just did that. I'll get along with your wife. I'll be your second wife. Invest in me. Not really.
Nice. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's maybe just moving on from that to the next step. So we talked about Twitter a little bit already. My perception of you is like the closest thing to an influencer I think we have in sort of our bubble of tech. Do you see yourself that way? Do you see yourself as an influencer?
Not really. Like, I feel like I should definitely acknowledge that, my actions affect other people. And I definitely acknowledge that, like, if I do good, I can set good examples for people. Right. Mm. But, I feel like I Asian my mom myself sometimes. I mean, it's like, great, you succeeded. But so what if you got an A? Where's the A+? So like when I look at myself, I'm like, man, I wish I could be like Kim Kardashian status, so I feel like, whatever, it's a drop in the puddle or whatever you want to call it. I'm bad with those types of things. But I mean, I can make a difference where I can make a difference, but I don't feel like, oh my God, I'm an influencer now.
Gotcha. Well, was it ever your intention when you got into Twitter to try to, I don't know, like gather more influence, command more influence just from, no? Okay.
It still isn't my goal, really. I mean, I don't like some people, when people post like, oh man, I just lost 10 followers. I'm like, I don't even look at my follower account. I don't know what you're talking about. Or like somebody the other day was like, oh, well, this person you have more followers than this person. I'm like, do I?
Is that something people check?
Yeah. Apparently it is.
Oh, I just crossed 1,000, so I was kind of excited about that. But yeah, I don't know. For me, Twitter was almost like more impactful back when I didn't have that as many followers, because I felt like the conversations I had were a little bit more genuine, and like there was still a lot of value to get out of it, even if I wasn't causing any big waves. But I felt like a lot of good conversations came out of it. My job at Narwhal came out of it. So I've heard about them through a tweet. So, or heard that they were hiring rather through a tweet. So.
Yeah, it sucks because it's like, it's the same thing. Like I think Twitter and Twitter influence, right? Just like you're saying, it's like going to a conference and being a speaker or not being a speaker. I can't go to a conference these days as a normal human being, right? Like, I mean, as just like an attendee, if it's a JavaScript conference, right? Like
do you feel like you've lost something?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like that natural, amazing experience that you have just as a conference person who like you don't know anybody and you're just building relationships with random people you're meeting. Like that is magical.
Yeah. So RxJS Live in Las Vegas, that was actually my first conference I was there in person.
Yes, that's amazing.
So, yeah, it was really cool for me. And my experience is what you're describing. I just met a bunch of random people, didn't really know who they were beforehand. I tried to meet Ben and some of the other people that are like big names, I guess, that I've interacted with a little bit before. But for the most part, my experience was sitting with people I happened to sit next to and striking up real cool conversations and having this weird thing where like what we were saying immediately resonated with each other because we're all about reactive programming. That's why we're here. Yeah. So yeah.
I miss that. I can't go to a conference anymore. And, it's like people think they know who I am. So that's it, right? Or like speakers, we all collect in the speaker room. We make great relationships. It's like family in those speaker rooms. But then like you can't, like it's like, it's like you're a speaker, so you're different. And then it's, you don't get that natural conference experience anymore. So whatever. I mean, the grass is always greener. That's what I tell everybody. Yeah.
Well, maybe I'll stop trying to get into the speakers categories. No, I don't know. I really. Too. Sorry, what was that?
There's value to that too. So don't get me wrong.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I feel like just wanting to spread my ideas, though. I felt like that happened just as well without actually being a speaker, just through the conversations that were had. So, I don't know. We're coming up on our time and not too long, so I want to just move along to some more questions. But looking at this dot and also just the kinds of content I've noticed on like your YouTube and just from seeing it, seems like there's a really large variety of different technologies y'all make content about. Like there's Angular, React, and Vue are all there. I've seen a lot of stuff for GraphQL. I've seen a lot of stuff for NGRX. I think the state of NGRX, that was this dot, right? And RxJS, you're a core member there. Yeah. Is that? I just thought of that as just being, I don't know, interesting. Was it your intention to kind of like cast a wide net, or did it just kind of happen that way?
No, it was always the intention, because I'm always about bringing people together. And when I got into JavaScript, it was like framework war-y, right? So people were like, oh, I use Ember, I use Angular, whatever, right? Yeah. But like the reality, because, a lot of my friends were on the core teams, is that everybody's working together. Yeah. Everybody's having conversations together. So like what I would do is I would like do events where I invited people together. So it's like Angular contributor days, inviting people from different core teams to that, RxJS contributor days, inviting people in and collaborating on those ideas, trying to make connections and introduce like Angular team to React team to RxJS team, whatever, right? Yeah. Because I really do believe like we're all working towards the same goal, which is making the web better. And the more I can do that, the better off we are, period. So yeah, it's always been very intentional to stay agnostic because, there's different purposes for different things, of course. And, I keep trying to do that. So we're going to be doing a lot of that in the coming year as well.
Well, I absolutely applaud that. I feel like my perception of Twitter, and this could be completely off, but it seems like there's different bubbles you get stuck in, and they're very segmented. Yeah. And they shouldn't be. Like I feel like for a long time I was just only in Angular Twitter, and to the point where I wasn't getting or understanding anything about React or Vue. And kind of every now and then I'd hear something about it, but I wouldn't really understand it. Right. But just like beyond JavaScript too, like getting into other languages, I feel like a lot of the stuff that's interesting in JavaScript is really just rehashing of stuff that's been around in computer science for like 20, 30 years. So.
Oh, for sure. For reals. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Any advice to people coming behind you, like me, who want to do stuff like you're doing?
Well, what do you want to do?
Everything. Well, maybe like content on YouTube. As any tips or hacks you've come across from your experience doing that? I've watched every episode now, I think, of SnackOverflow.
Oh my gosh, that's so hilarious. It's
I see some snacks in the background there.
I know, Googles as
Nice.
a preview.
That's a preview for the next one?
Yeah, I have 18 snacks, which is 6 episodes here.
Nice.
That I really need to deal with. Yeah, no. So, with YouTube, I think it's all about being consistent, right? I've definitely gone through the phase of like, okay, I'm going to record a video and then I'm going to spend 8 hours editing it. And then I'm like, what did I do with my life? Why did I spend 8 hours editing this thing? So, I think it's finding a happy, sort of stable, consistent medium. I think also like not doing everything live all the time, but having like posting it. So like ramping up and having like, 6 episodes kind of in the waiting room for yourself is really helpful.
Yeah.
But yeah, I heard that just like consistent posting is really useful. I'm still trying to figure out the strategy as well. So I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of thought out there, and we've talked a lot about it. Like, people come for the personalities, right? So, making sure you have a good personality on whatever you're doing, or like very narrow focus. So, we're this dot, which means we do everything. But like, if we had an Angular channel and a React channel, it'd probably be more popular, right? So, but whatever. I mean, do it for what you love as well. I think, actually, I love this because I've wanted to tweet about this, but like, you think about a mid-level developer who wants to get promoted, right? Now, he's not going to get promoted, he or she, let's say she is not going to get promoted just because she wants to make more money, because she's not doing it for the right reasons. But if she's passionate about development and she wants to be a better developer because she wants to be a better developer, right? Not for some superficial reason. I mean, I get money's money, but like not just because she wants to get promoted, not just because she wants to hit a dollar amount. She's much more likely to be successful just because she wants to be a good developer versus if she takes the path of, I'm just doing this because I want to get paid more. Because people can see through it, right? And I think that's the same thing with YouTube. Like, do it because you care, do it because you're passionate, and stay there and just be consistent.
Yeah. Cool. Well, yeah, the thing I'm passionate about is conversations like this.
Yeah. So, fun. We can really talk about tech.
I know. I'm finding like more and more, like we talked a little bit about tech, I feel like maybe, but yeah, like most of it is just like understanding people and how to be a better person. Like I think at the start, when I asked, what do you do? What you said was like focus on people in tech, focus on the human part of it.
Yeah.
And that's always been my focus, to the point where I've I don't know. I feel like the human part of tech gets it's underrated.
Yeah.
Understanding the people that are making our tech, I think, is, I don't know, that's where I'm interested in. That's where I'm fascinated by. I want to get better at that. I feel like you're extraordinarily good at that. So it was really cool to be able to have this conversation with you and talk through some of those things. So
I love people. I love connecting people. That's like my favorite thing to do. Which, by the way, let me just make a connection really quickly. I can't tell you who it is that I'm asking this for, but if you have any single girlfriends between the ages of, I would say, like 26 to 32-ish, one of my friends needs to get married. So doesn't have to be in tech. Just a nice girl. Feel free to send them my way.
Making connections everywhere you go. I love it.
I really want to find him a wife. I mean, for reals.
Hmm.
He's the wife at some point in time. He's got to catch up to you, Zach. 6 babies. Oh my gosh.
I got quite a head start.
That's amazing. Like, that's amazing.
I think you met Avery. I think I grabbed Avery and like did I have to give you back something after the conference? I don't remember. I feel like you met. She's now my second youngest, but we've had one since then.
No way! Are you serious?
Yeah. Sadie was born in March of this year. So.
Oh my gosh! Congratulations!
Yeah, thank you. When was our RxJS Live? Was that in?
Your wife was pregnant at the time because it was So. Yeah, that's amazing. I'm just still trying to have one, so send some of that my way.
Well, maybe wait until after COVID because it was not a fun experience. I luckily, if she was born a week later, I wouldn't have been able to be in the room when it happened.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
And as it was like when I checked in, they were like, "Okay, you are now in quarantine. You cannot leave this room until like you both leave the hospital together." So it was as opposed to our other births where like the whole family was there. It felt like it just felt like there was something missing.
Okay, wait. So how old are your kids? Like how old is your oldest?
So our oldest is 18 now. So she's already out of the house. And I'm a grandfather actually. She has her own son.
Amazing.
So, yeah.
18. Well, what are all the ages?
All right. So 18's our oldest. Then we go Eli's 12, Luke's 10, Claire's 5, Avery's 3, and Sadie is how many months now? Sorry, 8 months.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Well, she was born at the start of COVID and she's already 8 months old. Yeah. That's crazy.
Jeez. I should have gotten a head start. But then I found Twitter. If I hadn't found Twitter, I would have babies by now.
Twitter changed the course of the world.
It really did. So, yeah.
Well, I'm glad in some way. Not that you don't have children, but that I was able to meet you as a part of that, and that you're able to do the work you're doing now, because I think it's really important, especially in terms of diversity and inclusivity, and I think it's making a better future for tech.
Yeah.
So for all of us. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah.
And thank you for the Stack Overflows.
Yes, that's so funny. I'm so sick of pumpkin flavored things. All the Snack Overflows this month are like pumpkin themed, and I'm like, oh, get off the pumpkins. But you learn so much. Like, for example, most snacks are 1 ounce and 130 to 150 calories. That's just the way it is.
Like they're all right there?
Mostly every single one. So like you eat 1 serving of a snack and it's typically 130 to 150 calories. Typically about 20 grams, somewhere between like 16 to 26 grams of carbs per serving. Who knew it would be so consistent? But snacks are very consistent. Yeah. But
maybe
now
they know something we don't. They've unlocked us. So, yeah. Tracy, thanks so much for having for being on the show. This was really great. But yeah, and thanks everyone for watching. I guess we'll see you on next episode of ZDS. Bye now.